Welcome to From the Stands, your one-stop shop podcast for insider access and in-depth interviews with your favorite Billiken coaches and players. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter at Billiken Podcast for the latest news on future episodes. Now, here is your host, Billiken Athletic Director, Chris May.
Welcome back From the Stands, where we podcast talking Billiken sports. Doesn't need an intro, coming off of a great year. Here we're sitting down with Coach Schertz. Josh, where do you start, right? From a reflection, you haven't had enough time to really reflect a whole lot.
No, it was obviously a really fun year. I think when anytime you look at, the year, you try to look at, the team, how closely it played to its ceiling. It was an enjoyable group. I thought, we had some unbelievable moments. We like most years, there was adversity and difficulties. We maybe lost our way a little bit, in February, and then I thought we found ourselves in Pittsburgh and really carried that into Buffalo, and really performed, at a really high level in both games. We weren't obviously think at the result we wanted to against Michigan, but
everybody else had the same result.
Everybody else had the same result. Yes, very much.
Only
so.
one team gets to finish with the W.
Yeah, with only one team is the last team standing, and that's why you got to have a perspective that I think you got to look at the year, and it was an awesome group to work with. We had great guys. The way they sacrificed came together, and they performed in the postseason, which ultimately took anytime you win a championship, which we did in the regular season, makes it a great year. To make it a special year, you got to perform in the postseason. I thought we did on the biggest stage in the sport, both against Georgia and against Michigan, and set a great foundation for what we want to build on moving forward, and this group really etched its name in Billiken history.
Way I look at it, I look at 24 months back and 12 months back, and the massive steps in the growth that's happened, and that to me is what shows where this foundation has been set now. And the growth that's happened, walking into Buffalo, and then walking out with that type of an experience for our program, from the community, from the players, from the whole organization. It just felt like we took a massive step, and I couldn't be more proud of that. But your take on that step?
Yeah, I think you look at it as you said. 24 months. We walked into a situation, and you're basically starting from scratch, right? I mean, you're having to start from ground zero. We had two players at the time, Kellen and Larry, right. and a blank canvas, and then you're trying to build it out, and I think we've talked about maybe the way you and I reflect on year one is probably different than the way the public does, where the public might look at it and be, man, what a disappointing first year. That group gave us everything, and to get to 19 wins with all the adversity and everything that we went through, I was so proud of that team. That team really was the one that laid a foundation
Totally
for what
agree.
happened this year. And so, we've talked about, as we get those championship rings, like Isaiah, Gibson, the guys, Kobe, the guys that laid that, absolutely get a ring with this group, because of it's their work that laid the foundation for this. And then, this team to come on, and I walked off the court against Arkansas State last year, and I was pretty frustrated with I knew we needed to be better, and we had to do things from a roster standpoint to improve it. We were going to have a full spring in the portal. We needed to retain the right guys, and we needed to add the right guys, and we just I thought we did a great job. We retained the right pieces. Robbie came back, Amari came back, Kellen came back. Even Kalu returning. Dylan. We kept the right pieces, and then we did really well in the portal. And to go 6 for 6, and I think you just reflect on this journey, winning a regular season championship, getting to the NCAA tournament, winning a game, playing against Michigan on national prime time noon tip, everybody in the country watching, and to make a good accounting for ourselves. And now you walk off and you go, okay, we've had a taste of what it looks like. We have a group that felt that experience. They understand what it takes to win at this level. They understand the NCAA tournament. That group experienced a lot, and now as you go in, as we've talked about when I got here, the formula is pretty simple but complex. You got to recruit great players, you got to develop the heck out of those great players, and you got to retain the right ones. And I think we're in position to do all those things. And now, with everything we've done, I think we're in a whole different place in terms of how our program's perceived on a national scale, which is going to help us in not just recruiting, but scheduling and across the board.
I thought coming off of Buffalo, I felt good about it. But as you were there too, when you walk out of the Final Four this past weekend and the national people paying respect and acknowledging what the move that this program has made, that reinforced it as much as anything. You get it 1,000 times more than I, but when I'm running into Seth Davis and Billis and all those guys, they to a person were like, you have set a foundation for something special.
Yeah, I think, everybody sees, it's when you look at our program and to have the year we did and to win 29 games. As we said, we've been playing basketball here a long time. There's been a lot of great teams, a lot of great coaches. No team's ever won more games than that team, and no team's advanced further in the NCAA tournament than that team. And so I'm not saying it's the best or whatever, but historically, it's won the most. And I think the way they played, the way they sacrificed, have 9 guys. I think we had 7 guys average 9 points or more, and the way they played and how hard they played and how together they played, I think it captured a lot of attention. And you see and as people at the Final Four commented, man, you don't see teams like that stay together. And now, and to see this group say, no, we want to come back and add the right pieces, and we want to take this further. I think that's a credit to a lot of things, but certainly it's a credit to how well taken care of they feel by the institution, by the city. I think the fact that we sell this place out and people look at that, the O'Loughlin Champions Center, all the infrastructure and resources, the commitment institutionally. There's so many factors that go into retaining a team at this level. But I think the expectations are really high across the board, and people, I think, perceive our program in a really positive way, and that's ultimately what we've talked about, is to do it sustainably. Not to be a flash in the pan, not to have one good year every 5 or 6 years, but to really try to do it consistently over time. And I think we're put ourselves in a position to do that.
How prideful are you? I don't know if prideful is the right word, but those seniors, how great they played in Buffalo. They helped lead the whole year. Robbie, well-known, unbelievably special. But between Robbie and Dion and Paul playing their greatest basketball on the highest stage, what's your first recollection of what that really was with those guys?
Yeah, it was just incredible to see them, on the biggest stage in the sport. I've talked a lot about, how much this year for me I wanted to put Robbie in, for him to end his career in the NCAA tournament, and to have that happen, and to have it, we came up short. We come up short against Michigan in the biggest game that day. Middle standalone game at 12:10, on CBS. I mean, how cool is that? And go out on your sword. And I thought Dion. That guy came in and he hadn't been a part of teams that had much success. You look at his teams at UMBC, he had a lot of individual success, but not a whole lot of team success. And then, he goes to Boston College and he has a rough year at Boston College. And for him to come in and, to lead the way he did, and to be, such a great teammate and such a great competitor. And as you said, he played his very best basketball down the stretch of the season. Was great to see. And Paul, I think, Paul's team orientation, not easy to be a 2-time, all-league guy from the MAC. And you're used to playing 30 plus minutes a night. You're coming here and it doesn't go exactly the way you hoped. And it's so easy as a 5th-year senior to kind of say, screw this, and disconnect from the team. And that guy never did that. He never once complained. He never once came in and said, man, why? He only thought about helping the team, and every time his number was called, he was ready. And he played his 2 best games, or 2 of his best games of the year, against Georgia, Michigan, when it mattered most. And that's ultimately, we talk about with guys, competitive greatness, being at your best when your best is required. And all 3 of those guys, achieved competitive greatness in Buffalo.
They did it. Couldn't have been more excited and fired up for them. How happy are you for your close friend winning the championship last night?
Yeah, I texted him. I said, outside of me winning it, that's about as happy as I could be for any other human being. Dusty's obviously, I think, just I know how hard he works. I know how much he cares. I know what he puts into it. I think he's always, he's a coach's coach. He's always kept a great humility about himself and a desire to improve. I have incredible, respect for him. Not just as a coach, but as a person. And so to see him win it, if it wasn't me, and us at St. Louis, I'm happy it's him.
The other blue.
Yeah, the other blue. Yeah, not the one I wanted, but again, if it wasn't gonna, I always root for him and Ben and those guys, to win. And and I love to see my friends. I'm not one of those people that. That's so small I can't enjoy somebody else's success. Of course, I want that for us. For us, I want us to be the team the last team standing. But like I said, I can certainly enjoy my friend's success, and I'm so happy for him. As I said, I know how much he's put into it, and he had such a great team, did such a good job, not just assembling it, but getting those guys to play for each other. And as good as the individual parts were, the sum was greater than the individual parts, which is incredibly hard when you have a team that talented.
No question. And last but not least, we're now into what do you call this? The third or the fourth season? Whatever the portal season is.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Whatever we're just going into. There's no question we've made massive progress. We've got a lot of the guys all committed to wanting to come back, which is super special, and that talks about you and everything else you talked about. But as you go into this final season, what are your hopes? What are your expectations? What's your vision to put the final pieces together? You've got a lot of pieces to the puzzle already, which is super cool, which sets us ahead of many. Yep. What are those final pieces you want to look at as you move forward?
Yeah, I think, you're looking at, the more puzzle pieces you have, the more selective you can be because you know what you need. And I think we can be very specific with what we're recruiting. I think, when you have success, which we've had, and you have increased investment, which we do, you're going to have way more interest from people. The key is not to lose sight of the things that made you successful in the first place, and to forget the traits that you recruited that allowed you to be successful, and not just think, so there's a lot more interest from a lot more people. Like I said, I think it's, we have a lot to sell. We won 29 games. We made the NCAA tournament. We won a game. People saw our style of play. We average a ton of points. We play in a way that is aesthetically pleasing. We have a great city. We sell out. We have great fans. We have unbelievable facilities. We got a beautiful campus, great academics. You have all these different things that you can sell. The key is to make sure that we don't forget the level of team orientation, the level of sacrifice, the competitive character. Getting guys that, we always say, you recruit people first, players second. You better get both right. We better get both right? We got to be very dogmatic about that. And we know, like walking out of Michigan, like there's no, I think from a need standpoint, like it's pretty specific. We need to get bigger around the rim. We need to get more athletic around the rim. We need better rim protection, better rebounding, better shot blocking. Everybody's like, oh, how are you going to replace Robbie? Like, it doesn't work like that. I mean, I know it feels like because people just follow you Division I, but I've coached a long time. I've graduated a lot of great players. And the thing I've learned, when you graduate, Emmanuel Terry, who played for me in Division II and played in the NBA and was National Player of the Year, and Vinny Bailey's National Player of the Year, and Jarrell Simmons was runner-up National Player of the Year, and you have all these guys that are great players. You don't replace them. There's not a carbon copy of them out there. It's just different. And different doesn't mean better. Different doesn't mean worse. Different doesn't mean that we couldn't have a better team next year. There's not going to be a carbon copy of Robbie out there that does exactly.
Different.
It'll look different. And my job, our job is always to bend the system to the strengths of our personnel. And our personnel will dictate, what that looks like. And you know what, in 2023, 24 at Indiana State, it looked one way. Then we came here and, due to injuries and stuff like that, we played in a way that really accentuated the big three. And we were the only team in the country to have, 3 guys average 17 or more, and we played more zone, and we played slower. And, and we fought tooth and nail to get to 11 conference wins and get to the NIT. And then this year we had 7 guys average 9 or more. We played 9 guys. We played the 4th fastest tempo in the country. And it'll just be different. But every year is different. It's not like you're going to go find a carbon copy of Robbie, just like you didn't find a carbon copy of Gibb or Swope, right? I mean, like this team was different than last year's team, and next year's team will look different. But hopefully the way we've done it is, we go out and get the very best pieces we can that fit our culture, and then we bend what we do to accentuate what they do well and put them in positions to, as collectively, play as good as we can on both ends of the floor. And I'm very confident with where we are, what we've been able to do in a variety of ways, that we're going to be able to put a team on the floor that I think the fans will be really, really happy with. And our goal is not to replicate what happened this year. Our goal is to be better, and I want to put a better team together, and we're going to have to work really hard, get the right pieces. And then the other part that gets lost with all the the external stuff is internal improvement, and the fact that we have this many guys coming back, and how much better we can get them, and the corporate knowledge and the shared experiences and everything that group went through, not just the 5 guys who played a lot, but Cam Hudson and Jax Kerr and Luke Lechkowski and Badara Diakite. Those guys had a great learning experience last year. We're super excited about those 9 and their internal improvement. We'll do as much as anything we do in recruiting to drive our improvement from, where we were to what we want to be next year.
Last question. You weaved it in, but how rewarding was it to see the community? I mean, the reason why we're taking this big step is this community has stepped up, right? From the campus community to the corporate community to the donor community. The way it rallied, and what I was most happy about is what happened in Pittsburgh and then in Buffalo when they came and took over.
Yep.
Starting in Chicago.
Yep.
But how they really took over. How important is that to you as we build this to really compete at the highest level?
Yeah, it can't happen in a vacuum. I mean, it doesn't matter what I do, what anybody does. If our fans, don't embrace and support it, it doesn't happen. And like you said, whatever your role is, there's some that are, donors. There's the students that come out and create this incredible atmosphere. There's a community that brings the energy and creates these sellouts, and our players walk in and go, "Oh man, this is amazing." And we went 19-0 at home, and I would say without question, obviously great players drive that, but atmosphere, environment drive that. Fans create the environment. You can't win a championship without having elite home court advantage. You just can't. Duke's Duke, Kansas is Kansas for a reason, man. VCU and Dayton, why are they good every year? Because they never lose at home. Why do they never lose at home? Because they have really good players and they have incredible, fan support, incredible environments. They very rarely ever lose in their building. That's what we're creating here. The donors and the administration, their commitment to what we're doing. I mean, that allows us to retain our players. It allows us to put our best foot forward in recruiting. The commitment investment across the board, from our fans to corporate America, to our students, to Dr. Fazer, the board. I mean, it all has to work in concert for this to be what it can be. If one part's doing its job, the other part's not, it's never going to be. And I think, we've talked about this a lot, but like what constitutes a great job in 2026 is not the same as what constitutes a great job in 2020. And you can choose who you want to be now. Like every program gets to make a decision on what they want to be, how invested they are, and the investment everybody made is what's allowed us to have the season we had, but it's also fueling, the great stuff that's going to be coming behind it, that it wasn't just this a one-off anomaly with this group and then the whole group disbands. The reason everybody's coming back, and I think running it back together, is because of all those different things, the sellouts, the investment, the travel, the way we do things. I mean, the whole piece running together is what makes this special, and I think everybody inside the program not only realizes it, but appreciates it at the deepest and most sincere level.
And the students' energy from the group that went up to Buffalo, that went to Pittsburgh.
Incredible.
There was only one minor detail when they tried to get me to paint my face blue. And I was like, as soon as Josh does that, I'm with you. But the energy that they brought was just second to none.
Yeah,
so
our students were amazing, and they were great. I mean, all year. I mean, going back in January, like they didn't hop on and
They didn't waver.
No, they were there in conference play. They brought the heat every night. Like I said, you get goosebumps for the game, when Dre's over there with them and they're, the lights go off and they're, going crazy and all of us, like I said, everybody inside, feels that and appreciate. Our students were, because the community is amazing and they bring energy, but the students are, those are the crazy ones. Those are the ones that
That's why we do it.
To the top. Yeah, and it was an incredible environment, and we're looking forward to building on that, here in 26, 27.
Well, congratulations, great job. Let's get after it in this fourth season or whatever we call this season between now and May. I couldn't be more happy with where we are, and I'm even more excited about where we're going. That's
Absolutely.
what fires me up. So great job. Any last words to the Billiken faithful?
No, just, hey, appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for everything this year. Let's do it bigger and better in 26, 27. Let's make it a harder place to play. Let's travel better. I think we got a chance to put together a special group due to you guys. And this was an amazing journey filled with some incredible moments. Look forward to sharing in the great moments to come.
All right. Josh Schertz, head basketball coach, great job. Billiken fans, great job. Until we see you very soon, this summer sometime in Chaffetz, seeing the guys, roll Bills.
Thanks for listening to From the Stands with Billiken Athletic Director Chris May. Subscribe to our podcast in the iTunes Store and have the latest episodes sent straight to your phone. Go Billikens!